Do you want to help your children develop a healthy relationship with their bodies, exercise, and food? Well, if so, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we talk about how to speak with your children about their food, about nutrition, and about moving their bodies in a way that's ultimately going to create a positive relationship with both. So if you're ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. Welcome.
Yes.
Two things I have to talk about today. For those of you who are new to our podcast, for the first 10 to 15 minutes, we talk about our lives, reality TV, mostly me, parenting, and so many other things. So if you want to stick around, please do. If not, check out the show notes below to see when our conversation starts on speaking to your children about food. Okay. I met a dog.
Oh, no.
No, on purpose.
Oh.
So Mark and I decided, well, first and foremost, it started because we still have Brooklyn's medication.
Oh.
And Halo Dog Rescue takes medication.
Oh.
Yeah.
These people.
That's Angel Vet is.
Oh, okay.
Angel Vet's the youth.
Angel and Halos, whatever.
Yes. All of them are wonderful.
Yeah.
So we went in, so we dropped out the meds and I was like, well, let's look at some dogs. And we did. And there wasn't any dogs there. And I immediately started crying when we left. And so we decided to go to Maricopa County Animal Control, which is where I got Brookie. And there's 500 dogs there.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's 8 buildings. And I met this girl. I'm going to cry talking to her. Met this little girl. She was by herself. She was a stray. She had just gone up for adoption that day. Same story as Brooklyn. She was so sweet. Unfortunately, 2 unfortunates. She had some medical stuff, which we're perfectly willing to take on. But we couldn't introduce her to Harlem. They don't do dog introductions there. And I'm like, I can't bring this dog home. Like, she's my priority.
Yeah.
And I don't know. They say, well, I know. They're like, it's too scary.
So. Yeah. Well, and like you're going to have people coming in and out with their dog and then even like disease. And
disease
stuff like
is another one. So
I feel like that's important though.
It's because absolutely important that she's a queen of, I mean, look at her when she,
I know.
She out there in sunshine.
She seems fine.
Yeah. She seems
sunshine. Her morning period has ended.
Yes, it has. Well, her mommy took her for a walk today too.
In her cart.
She loves her cart. Now she like stops and she's like, okay,
I'm
done.
Yeah, her power scooter.
It's insane. So Mark goes, well, do you want to go to Humane Society? Because that's where we got Harlem and we were able to introduce them. So we get to the Humane Society parking lot and there's all these signs, adoption. And it's heart. It's a rescue. I don't remember what it stands for. And the cool thing is you go in and they're like, well, what are you guys looking for? And we're like, we want your chillest dog here. And they're like, okay, boy, girl. Blah, blah, blah. So they're like, okay, come to this area. And they bring these dogs out. And they're
like Tinder.
Yes. Well, better.
Yeah.
It's like a matchmaker.
Yeah.
So they bring out this little guy, Georgie, and they're like, he's our chillest dog. And he walks right up to Mark, doesn't even pay attention to me. And I'm like, nope. Then they bring out Patches. Oh my God. Patches is the cutest little man. He's very sweet, very, very sweet. And then they bring out Tinsel. I have no idea what this dog is. We don't know how old she is. They haven't even done an intake on her. They weren't supposed to show her.
Oh.
This little lady just comes right up in, is giving me kisses, is sitting. She can fetch. She can bring the ball back. She can lay down. She's not even like a year old. We're looking for like a 5-year-old dog.
Yeah.
But she was in my arms. Like, I need this dog. So next step, we're going to bring her to meet her.
Shit.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Tinsel, little puppy. Here's the thing, guys. I was already looking for a third animal.
Yes. You had mentioned that.
Yes. So like, that's already, it's a lot of people are like, oh, you're replacing. No, nothing will replace her. Nothing. It's for this little lady because she likes company. Yeah. Now, that's another thing we're kind of deciding that, like, does she love being an only child now? Does she, she's a dog, so she's not going to tell us that. But this interaction, these people, though, the rescue, they have to come to our house. They have to look. Yeah, they're doing the whole thing.
That's
and I'm
what
like,
my mom had to do with Lulu.
Yeah.
And it was like,
awesome. It's great.
Yeah.
Because what I like about this rescue is I can't just go in there and get a dog.
Yeah,
they choose
like
you.
They vouch you.
Yeah,
they're very choosy.
Yeah. Well, I left that little lady with some. I had like this lip color on. She had little lip kisses. She's all white on her head.
What kind? So you don't know what kind of dog?
No.
What does she look like?
A
dog.
A little white dog.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Huh? It's not a breed.
So when are they coming over?
I just submitted the application yesterday.
Oh, so maybe like this week.
Yeah, but I'm gonna call them and see when I can bring Harlem.
That's true.
Because she's gonna get fixed, the dog, probably within the week. So I'd rather take her. I don't know. Do I take her before she gets fixed or after? And then she has like a wound. So I was thinking before, so that she doesn't have a wound.
Well, they might not let her see other dogs with the open wound.
Yeah. So
we're just assuming we don't know how
Tinsel.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
We might have a Tinsel.
We might have a Tinsel town.
Would she hang out in here? Or you're still no dogs in here?
Harlem hangs out. That's her bed right there.
There's my letdown.
What?
I said, and there's my letdown.
Why?
Well, look, because
not if the baby's here.
Oh no, yeah, it happens. Like if the baby's not around.
What's your letdown?
Like it's like where your milk just starts to come through.
Oh, I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, my dog is letting you down. I don't understand. That's true. Do you need to do something?
No, I have pads in, so that way they can absorb my juices. Because
juicy.
Yeah, because it feels like pins and needles. I know. Well, it's not too bad. It's just like a little like you know when you get dry needled, just like that. Like
I hate being dry needled.
Oh really? Oh, I went and saw Dr. Austin on Friday.
Oh, yeah?
And he
did you dry needle your boobs?
No, he dry needled my thumbs, like in here and here, and then he did my back and my cups. I got cup marks. They're pretty like gnarly because I'm all fucked. Because my thumbs are like fucked from the baby, from like picking up, holding, and then I've got to hold my boob like a hot dog.
Yeah,
and. And then like I'm always pushing to like scoot up with her.
Yeah.
So they like pop out. Like it feels like they get dislocated, but I know they're not because else I would be in much bigger pain. But like to grab and like pull is like excruciating.
Oh my God.
I know. And then my arms are going numb.
You sure that's not from labor?
Yeah.
Like some sort of spinal something from labor?
No, I'm pretty sure it's from.
Okay. I mean, he is the chiropractor.
Yeah.
Right?
So because like I don't know something because my arms go numb. So I have to do like chin retractions like this, and then I have to do this. So their movements. He does the DNS stuff.
Yeah,
and so it's really interesting.
I have to do those chin retractions for my Chiari malformation.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
You have a Chiari malformation? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I found it out when I was in a car accident. Oh. I had no idea, and so I think the car accident caused it personally. I was this is why I have so much trauma in cars.
Yeah.
I was in a bad car accident on the I-17.
Ew, that's a bad freeway to be on a car accident.
My hands went completely numb and then they kept going numb. They still go numb to this day. And so they did all these MRIs and found a Chiari malformation, and my cerebral spinal fluid collects in my spinal cord. It's not supposed to do that. So they're called synapses. So I have a few, and I haven't had MRI in a while. I'm supposed to get them every 2 years. Because it was my I think I told you this. My neurosurgeon's like, well, if you're fine and you can like work out and stuff.
Yeah.
And
you told me that, but you didn't tell me you had a Chiari.
Oh yeah. I have a Chiari malformation.
Okay. Well,
look it up, everybody. Okay. The second thing I want to talk about, have you watched The Man Who Doesn't Want to Die? The guy who's trying to keep himself young.
No.
Brian Johnson.
No.
Oh, you've got to watch it. Okay. Put it in. We'll talk about it later. Because this is all health based. I want to know your opinion.
Brian Johnson.
I'm going to give maybe we do an episode on it.
On Brian Johnson?
Yeah. So you've got to watch. So we'll both watch this Dilio.
Is it the English
Netflix
singer-songwriter?
No.
Okay. He spends $2 million a year to live forever?
Yes.
Is Don't Die.
Don't Die. Yeah.
All the tech. Is this okay? Wait. Is this a guy that lives in the? No. That was a different guy.
No, this guy lives in a like multi-million-dollar house. He's a tech guy. Ew. His goal is to continually.
Not to be confused with a finance guy.
Yes,
because that's apparently a thing.
Oh,
did you know that? Like, I saw my cousins this summer, and they're like, "Oh, he's a finance bro." I'm like, "What does that even mean?"
It's like my husband.
Like, he seems pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Don't die. The man who wants to live. He has spent millions of dollars over the past 4 years implementing the latest discoveries in longevity science to reverse aging. Is he like a telomeres guy?
He did. I don't remember if they talked about telomeres.
Okay.
I actually read that book. Not all of it, of course.
Yeah, not to be confused with every page.
Yes, not all the pages. Yeah. I read some of the pages.
Oh, he's with Venmo. No wonder he makes a lot of money.
Well, he created like similar to Venmo. Venmo bought him, then Venmo got sent to PayPal, whatever. Mark told me all this stuff.
Whoever owns Venmo now, if you could stop telling the government what we all transfer each other, that would be cool. Did you know that? Like for if you get like over $400 or something like that, you have to tell the government.
I kind of knew that. My
accountant,
one of the ladies that helps me look good. I'm not going to say who she is. Well, I can say my spray tan girl. People don't know who she is. She's like, don't put on there. It's spray tan.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I was like, why? She's like,
because then she has to tell.
Yeah. Government's watching. So we will watch that. If you guys, it's called, tell me again what it's called, guys. So everyone can watch.
Hang on. I'm knee deep. New documentary, Don't Die. That's what it's called. Don't Die.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you my psychological perspective because it's actually, they talk about it in there.
Is this coming back to the moms of TikTok, the Mormon stuff? Because he left the Church of Latter-day Saints. He grew up in a Mormon church.
So there's a spirituality. I would call it, okay. Let's just watch it.
Okay. And then we'll break it down.
And then we'll break it down.
Okay.
Because I said that to Mark from the beginning ago. He's spiritually disconnected.
Oh.
I said it before they even said anything about his. Because this concept of wanting to live forever
is odd.
It goes back to, everything goes back to my dog dying. Of that like physical like being a spiritual presence that's having a physical existence. And he's trying to keep his physical existence, even though he's a spiritual presence.
So strange.
Oh, just watch it. Okay.
Yeah.
We will have that for
54 pills a day.
Is there anything else you guys want us to watch and break down?
I'm watching, hang on. I am watching a good show on Netflix that we watch at my mom's house when I bring the baby over there.
Love.
It's called Missing You.
Oh.
I guess it's an English show that's on Netflix. Like her fiance goes missing one day and she's actually a detective, and then he pops up. And so it's like trying to put the story together of like, of what happened.
Is it real?
No,
scripted.
It's scripted. But it's really good.
Yeah.
It's
I have a hard time with scripted shows. I don't know why. Yeah.
I have a hard time with reality TV. I don't know why.
This is us. So we will watch that together.
Okay.
It's on health and wellness.
I still have to watch Aaron Rodgers too.
Oh yeah, and Aaron Rodgers too. What else was I watching? Oh, another stupid show. You won't watch it. So,
my baby laughs.
Yeah.
Like smiles now. Yeah, I can get her to smile.
That's awesome.
I know. It was
Does she have a big smile like you?
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she gets like it. I go, ooh, she goes,
yeah. I know. See, look at my dog's lip gets caught in its teeth, and I'm like, "Are you smiling?" Yeah. So an actual smile.
Yeah,
that's pretty fantastic.
We're fucked.
Well, speaking of kids,
okay, yes, that's why I want to do this.
Yeah,
so I was like, now I can have questions.
Yes, we are going to talk today on how to speak to your children about food, exercise, and one of the main things, and I know it's here in the notes, that our moms often say is like, well, I don't want to track my food in front of my child, or,
what do I want them to talk about how I talk about my body?
Yeah. What if I am in a changing body? Yeah. And, so I think this is important. Plus it's important. There's a lot of things that are important here. Not, we want to stop that intergenerational bullshit of body image issues, food related issues, over exercise restriction, whatever that looks like, as well as it's important for kids to learn this early on. It's funny. I had a woman start following me on Instagram, and I said, I always like say hello, like what brought you to our page. She said she was looking for a trainer for like someone's daughter. And I explained what I did, and I heard nothing from her. And I want to like go back. Maybe she is reiterating the information. I don't know what she did with the information that I explained what I did. But I'm really hoping that she's not just out there just trying to find a trainer for like a teenager. Yeah.
Rough.
Don't do that.
Yeah. So it's again, like
aesthetics based.
Yeah. So because ultimately sometimes we do want to change our aesthetics, and it's okay as long as we understand that the internal piece, like we talked about for our program, changes as well of how we talk to ourselves, because the aesthetics won't change how you feel about yourself. How you feel about yourself will change the aesthetics,
right?
And the purpose with that. But also like what we do when we're changing aesthetics, or what we do when we perceive ourselves, or what we grew up with. I think that reel that you had the other day was a really good example of it too.
Yeah.
Actually, that hit too.
It did.
I was like,
hit.
And then, but one of the points too here is, because a lot of our clients and the people who listen to this podcast are going to be more health minded than general population.
Right.
Well, the problem is with general population and what's happening in America for the most part, rather than other countries, is our kind of over reliance on heavily processed foods, fast foods, get quick fixes.
Right.
And then even like our school lunches are terrible.
Right.
And there's no nutrition education in class. And so it's kind of like sex education, I'd equate it to, right? If we're not talking about it at home, the kids are not getting at school, and they're going to make choices that they see their parents doing.
Right.
Or they're going to be influenced by other people. And so if we can kind of...
Or media.
Yeah. And so, and is that media? And that's not even to say like if they're following media that's really health minded, but like there's also health minded that's the orthorexia too,
right.
Or like promoting bulimia, or promoting anorexia, or promoting like how to stay skin. Like that all is going to be dumped into your kids' brains if you're not having an open and honest conversation about this.
Right.
And that's not to say you can't say, I don't want to have weight loss. Like, and like hiding it from your kid. It's to open that door and say, oh, I'm working on this. This is why, and how I have that conversation. Now you're going to have a different conversation with a 5-year-old compared to an 18-year-old.
Correct.
But overall, there needs to have an open door policy in your household about this.
Well, and it just comes, again, I'm going to break it down even further of like, if this is what vulnerability is.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're saying, it's open door. So, taking that a step further is what you're creating. What you're introducing is like vulnerability and being, like you said, an open door policy, being able to talk about things that are hard, that are difficult. And no matter if it is food and exercise, sex, boundaries, really, whatever that is, we want to always be creating that open door policy, and know that our children are learning and looking to us as the authority and the person. And that doesn't mean, parents, that you have to know the fucking answer. Maybe you say, you know what? I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
Like, let's find some things we can listen together or read together or watch together. Jordan Syatt has his new YouTube that is exercise for kids. And he's
really?
like, yes, he like did this whole like cartoon, and I just saw his
in the next couple months.
clips online. And so, it's beyond just, I need to tell them how to eat right. It's creating an environment of, we can talk about anything, and things that are hard for me, I can be vulnerable with, and I don't have to hide it. We can have those conversations and so on. And obviously the important parts is, on top of that is learning how to feel your body, right? Learning how to have energy, how to grow strong, right? Getting creative with the food, not just creative in yourself. I think a lot of parents put it, I mean, obviously Liv can't make food right now, but when she's old enough, I don't know what I was watching. I saw this gal who gets a lot of slack because she has her kids like do a lot of their own tasks in the kitchen.
I had to do that.
They're little.
Yeah.
They're like 3, 4.
No, that's great.
Yeah. And she's starting them where she can, but she gets a lot of slack online. But I was like, that's genius. Like, how we talked about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
You teach your kids early, like, you can do hard things, and I'm going to show you, and I'm going to be here with you. It's not like she like leaves them in the kitchen. It's like, okay, good luck. Like they cut up those safe knives, like they'll cut up their veggies, they'll get their own plate, and she has them where the plate, so getting creative.
Yeah.
Well, they can help you with the foods.
Your kids are going to leave at some point. So actually, let's put this back on to the person listening. You left at some point and felt lost and all of that shit. And we know a lot of the times it does come from other influences. Like we said on the other episode, is it comes from the seed. That seed grows, and then these branches attached to it from information that we get. And what you had to learn and recreate with your relationship with nutrition and exercise in your body, you can influence your kids by already having that positive relationship rather than them getting out of the household.
Right.
So it's like, how do you make your kid like a good worker? You know what I mean? And not like everybody should work to die and working.
Right.
But like, you want your kid to be most people probably want their kid to be a respectful member of society that has a job that they like and that they show up to every day. Right?
Right.
So how do we do that? Well, we teach them like manners. We teach them how to interact with adults, how to, perform tasks and whatnot, and then potentially get a job when they're younger so they can realize what that's like when they're older.
And we're also an example of that.
Yeah.
If you're telling your kid like, oh, you need to work hard and you're on your phone on social media all day, they're like, well,
what the hell?
I don't need to do shit. Correct. You don't do shit.
Correct.
So, our goal today is obviously giving you like practical tips, mindset strategies, as we always would, so that you feel like, I can walk away from this and start implementing these things. Obviously being able to speak, being able to demonstrate, being able to combat even some of the shit out there in the world.
Yeah.
And then, of course, for a lot of you who are learning about yourself and your underlying issues, being able to stop when we are projecting the old patterns and passing them down.
Yep. So when we go into this, let's talk about the nutrition piece first.
Yeah.
So one of the things I put on here is to focus on like the nourishment, not restriction.
Absolutely.
And you'll see the restriction a lot, like Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, counting points, counting calories and whatnot. But it's not to say you can't do those things, although I prefer you don't do Jenny Craig and Weight Watchers and all that. But it's not to say you can't track calories, but it's more so instead of saying, say we're in a weight loss phase. It's not saying, oh, I'm just measuring what I can't have, which would be too much. It's more so I'm just seeing how much would make me feel good.
Right.
They don't need to know like more than that. Now, if they're maybe older, right, say like 15 or can comprehend more so than the 5-year-old or the 8-year-old can, it's, I'm seeing how much will make me feel good. So that way I have enough energy throughout the day.
Right.
Right. And we can go further. Oh, why do we need more? Well, because a mommy is working on her body or working on how she feels about like her energy or her connection. And at some point I need to adjust how much I'm having and just kind of making it more neutral. But again, we always talk about what can clients add? And so taking it from that same point as opposed to what am I taking away from myself?
Well, when you're saying that, you made me think most kids around age 5 will know that when their iPad's dying. Am I wrong?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. They also know how to undo it too.
Yeah. So you say, okay, well, when your iPad dies, we have to plug it in. Well, that's what food does for us. It charges us up.
Yeah.
Like using these creative ways to help them understand. But, Body by Brie Fitness, she did a reel on this. Now, again, she is a social media influencer. And in the reel, she's talking to her daughter about why she tracks her food every day. I'm track my food to make sure I'm eating enough. And I'm getting enough protein in my body because that gets us strong and that makes us da-da-da. And she's explaining her daughter's roughly like maybe 12, 13.
Oh, okay.
I love the message for someone who's done this for decades. You don't need to fucking track your food anymore. You and I can both hit our protein goals.
You know what's funny is I started tracking calories again. And it was like, I was like, oh, I don't need to track calories.
Right. Exactly.
But then that's another thing. But like I know what it should look like. And then I was able to replicate that without tracking. And then when I retracked to see where I was at, I was like, oh, it's literally the same.
Literally the same.
Yeah. So, but I do like that she's like focusing on, okay, I'm measuring, or I'm weighing, or I'm doing this way to make sure that it feels strong, or that way it helps mommy get strong or daddy get strong, whoever. I mean, if I say mommy and you're a daddy listening, replace that.
Right. No, and focusing on that physiological, not aesthetics aspect of it. Right.
Yeah.
Not, which is the opposite. We want to refrain from, talking about foods as good and bad, which we'll talk about here in a second. What I like to think of too is like, what does that food provide me, which we already kind of touched on. And depending on if you're talking to a 5-year-old, you're going to say, who's your 5-year-old's favorite superhero? Oh, it's Spider-Man. Okay, well, the proteins make us strong. Our vegetables give us energy to grow, or energy to run. Our fruits give us energy to, play, or whatever. So focusing on breaking down even macro and micronutrients, because what we're saying is it untrue.
Well, and you can make it up too.
Yeah.
Like that's what, like,
try to be honest.
If you know, yeah. Well, what I mean is like carrots have vitamin A. Yeah. Retinol, because retinol and vitamin A. Okay. So you could you don't need to be like, oh, well, carrots have vitamin A, which is really good. You could say like, oh, carrots help our eyesight.
Yes.
Or, oh, broccoli helps our hair grow. Like, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
But people want their hair to grow. You know what I mean? Especially daughters. They want like nice, luscious hair.
True.
So it's like thinking of what are ways that I can mimic that or something that they would want that's tangible. And I think it's really important that you lead by example on this. So you don't want to be telling your kid, for example, like say they're having mac and cheese, right? You don't have to have a whole plate of mac and cheese, but if you consciously make that like verbal of like, oh, mommy's not having mac and cheese.
Right.
They're going to take that and go like, well, why isn't mommy having mac and cheese? Then maybe I don't have mac and cheese. And then that perpetuates something. So think of every time your mom went on a diet and she was like pulling out the freezer meal while everybody else is having something else.
Right.
And it's like, well, why is mommy? I want what mom wants or what dad has. And so we need to make sure that we don't do it. I can't have this, but you can. Because if I can't have it, is it bad that the kid is having it?
Right.
And that's creating a story to them too.
Well, it's just think of it from just the aesthetics of it, or like if you're looking at it from the outside in of my mom's making me this food, I eat this food, but then that food's not good enough for her. So why is it good enough for me?
Right.
Right.
Because you're not going to think it's good. It's better for me. You're going to think it's not good for me.
Yeah.
Like your brain never goes like, oh, well, like the positive of it.
No. And she's like the person, especially for daughters, you look up to as our example. Making sure that we're not, again, putting it as like mommy's foods, daddy's foods. I even think of like for men, drinking like a protein shake or something like that. Your sons are going to look at that and think that, that's something that, they need to do. And the beautiful thing is they have all these wonderful chocolate milks.
Right.
And everything that we can here. This is your protein shake. This is my protein shake, or like amino acids or, pre-workout and shit like that. Like leading by example of also with yourself of realizing what is actually necessary for your body.
Yeah.
And what is just bullshit too.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because one of the studies that I brought up for this, because I was like, I know there's studies on this because we've had them linked in other episodes. But so one of them said children influence the purchasing decisions of their parents. So that's okay. So what are we going to buy? Things that have fun on them, right? Like the characters and whatnot.
And who influences those children's? Big marketers.
Yeah. Big food.
Big food. Yes.
So but they said, but this influence decreases when mothers and fathers are more aware of the importance of a quality-based diet.
Yep.
So for example, if my daughter at some point is like, oh, let's get this like box of cereal that's Captain Crunch or something like that. I'm looking at it, I'm like, I'm probably not going to buy that. Right. I'm going to try and find something else. I'll try and get creative and be like, oh, maybe we make it on our own. Like, I'm not going to really make Captain Crunch cereal, but I can put together a fruit bowl or whatever. I don't even know what Captain Crunch is made out of. Rice cakes. Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to say, oh, we'll make it at home, because she doesn't know what it looks like in that box.
Right.
And so, but I know that with my knowledge. So this is where I would encourage parents to take ownership of your household and create the knowledge for yourself. So that way you can then pass it on to your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. And we already kind of touched on that too, of like not saying, and you guys, sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. Like, oh, mommy can't have that right now. Or, oh, it's a cheat day. Or, okay, I'll reward myself a little bit. Stop doing that. You are making foods good or bad. And, if we're good or bad, then that, again, just going back to the meal of having mommy has one meal and I don't.
Yeah.
If I eat that food that mommy's saying that she can't have, or I have that food that she can only reward herself with, what does that mean about me?
Right.
And so we have to watch our language around food. Good, bad, reward, off track, on track. What else do you hear?
Cheat days,
weekends,
treats.
Yeah. Oh, let's have a little treat, and their food is food. And we want to teach kids that too. Like I almost feel like the word treat is like putting it on this pedestal, whereas it's all food.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I told you guys this before. My friend who is adopted, she's of Asian descent.
Oh, yeah.
Her mom used to reward them with broccoli. because they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
well,
you got your broccoli.
It's like kids don't know any better, so they really don't know. Like a creamy is a great example now because you can make these like protein dense, like lower calorie options that are ice cream.
Yeah.
And so now again, the creamy is an additional cost. Okay, then maybe we make like some protein popsicles.
Yes.
Where you just need that plastic container thingy that you can buy.
Yeah. And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun for your kids.
And join them. Have them work with you. So my girlfriend yesterday, she was talking about her hair. I think they either purchased it or her mom purchased it for their toddler, one of those toddler towers that they put in the kitchen. Do you know what have you seen it? It's basically like a larger stool with a cage around it. So the toddler can be in the kitchen with you and cook with you and just engage with you.
Oh, that's cool.
And so it's like bringing them in. So again, you can do that with them rather than here's your food, fast food, here's the TV, sit down.
Right.
Right. It takes additional time, but trade-off.
No, I agree. It takes an additional time, but we're also creating. So we think about a happy meal, like we're putting this emotion on this meal, but the meal doesn't necessarily, we talked about this before, like fast food doesn't make us happy. It actually makes us sluggish. It affects our mood in a negative way, but we call it a happy meal, right? Or a treat. When really what we need as human beings is connection, is love.
Yeah.
So it might take you a little bit more time, but we're creating an environment around food that is full of love and connection. The food is good for us because we're making it ourselves.
Right.
So it's even deeper than that. You know, you're taking time to build these memories with your kids that food is loving, is with my mom or my dad, is time spent together. It tastes good, you know, and I feel good after it. So take the time. I know we don't all have time. And I get it, but like maybe start like we talk about every other thing, small.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the popsicles.
Maybe it's just having dinner together and not necessarily joining you in the kitchen. Cause I can think, so did you grow up eating dinner like as a family?
Yes.
Yeah. So I did too.
Until I was like way into competitive dance.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
But that foundation was already there. And so I always think about that. Like growing up, I would be like, you know, because you're like, it's not a kid teenager.
I love my mom's food.
But I like
had my mom's food.
I like the food.
Yeah.
But like to sit with your family and be like, oh, how was your day? And like, it was fine, you know?
Yeah.
But now when I look back on it, I'm like, that's really nice. Cause that like, I can see that my parents cared and like wanted to engage with me and felt it was important that we sat down as a family. Cause I remember for softball, like practice would be at, we'll say 5 or something like that. We would have dinner before as a family to make sure that I had dinner before I went and practiced. But so that would have been, now my family didn't do this, but it can an opportunity for them to talk about like, we need to make sure that we're fueled for practice. That way you can continue to get better and make sure that our body's recovering for how much you're doing. But, and then in addition, talking about the connection, like you are engaging about my day. How was it? Like, even if I'm like, it was fine and don't tell them anything, it's still the point that they were present for me.
Right.
Instead of just absent. Yeah.
No, I think that again, if we just playing off what you're saying, you know, from the opposite, fast food.
Yeah.
It's fast. It's in the car. It's not mindful. We're rushed. That doesn't feel good. Whereas if I can sit down and have a meal, even, okay, we in our program, like if that's your only option, like of course our default is Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
But maybe we sit and we get out of the car. Maybe we sit on a picnic bench or something, like, or just sit in front of a Chick-fil-A's picnic bench and at least take a moment.
Yeah.
You know, but the preferred is let's all sit down. Like, let's have a meal. Let's connect. Because again, we're realizing like people don't realize like all of that's getting stored. Those core memories are getting stored no matter which way you do it. If you're in the car in the back rushing, that's the mindless eating. That's the food just to, you know, shove it in our mouths. Whereas the former is a different type of connection and core memories that you're creating. So one of the things I love for parents to do is creating even more autonomy with food. My sister-in-law did this well when the kids were growing up and here's the thing. I'm going to talk about this from a place of having the ability to do this, right? Financial ability.
Right.
Not all parents can do this. Actually, you can, but I'm going to talk about it in different ways, depending on your circumstances. So we would go, I just remember being at like Disney with her, and my niece would get butter noodles. She still only eats butter noodles. She's like a badass cheerleader. Yeah.
Butter noodles are pretty solid.
Listen. Moto has good butter noodles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she would eat like a portion of it, and then that was it. And Deanna didn't push her. She never pushed her to like eat more, eat more, eat more. I had mentioned this with Olivia. She has already established her no system, and food has been there from the start, right? From the start. She knows when she's hungry. She knows when she's full. She knows how to say no.
Yeah.
She knows how to ask for food. We want to keep that going, right? We want to keep that going as long as we can. And if they say I'm full, remember that system has always been there.
Yeah.
But I think parents are like, no, you're not. They're like, no, motherfucker, I'm full.
Right.
And it sucks. I get it. And I'm going to say something kind of shitty. If you didn't want to put all this effort into it, maybe be like me.
Meaning?
Don't have kids.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason I don't have children.
Yeah.
And now people are really like, well, you don't have children. How can you talk about it?
I can talk about it.
I worked for decades working with families and youth.
Yeah.
Also in eating disorder facilities. So we're trying to avoid that. Let them tell you when they're full.
Yeah.
And if you need to just hold that little bit aside,
right?
Because 2 hours later they're hungry, great.
Well, and
we're not recreating that meal.
Yeah. And this is going to be a side note. That also means don't eat their meal for them, because here's where the overindulgence comes in, the guilty feelings comes in, or where mom starts snacking off the kids' plates of what they don't eat. And then at dinner time, she's not eating.
Right.
And so now you're still showing these behaviors and these examples. Now, again, we're not having a conversation and opening that door, but we are kind of creating, well, mommy's not eating at dinner or snacking throughout the day. Right. And so kids see that. What kids see, they want to do. That's similar. That's similar to parents. So I want you to take that in mind. It's not so much of a conversation that we're just having, but these behaviors that you're showing them. So for example, going to the grocery store, do we take them with us? And we talk about why we're picking these foods, again, going back to why we're choosing the carrots, why we're choosing the broccoli, why, and just opening the conversation when they're young.
Yes.
So that way, when they're older, they're not. Now, this is like our conversation for this podcast is on like your ideal outcomes,
of course,
right? There are going to be times where kids and the family does have In-N-Out or Chick-fil-A or fast food, but there's a difference between we have that on occasion, and this is why maybe we're traveling to San Diego and we have to stop,
right?
As opposed to, I just didn't. We don't have anything to eat, so we're just going to go there. We'll order it.
Right.
We'll order Grubhub. And it's like, well, what connection have you brought? Because you're probably not sitting at the table, everybody talking, waiting for Grubhub to arrive.
Here's the thing. If all else fails, make some fucking sandwiches for your kids. That's the other thing is like parents think they need to have this whole meal. Like, believe
kids
me,
are not gonna eat
we
that
come
either.
from families of Italian upbringing. So we get it. But sometimes just, hey, let's grab some sandwiches, or maybe you're going to be busy and we want to have something that we have
even like your mac and cheese with the bonza pasta, and then add in you can secretly add in vegetables, cut them up really finely, and then like cheese. Okay, so we could do like a goat cheese, or what cheese do you use? I know you hate goat cheese.
I use a Mexican blend, and then I use Laughing Cow.
Well, there you go.
So I make the sauce out of both of those. Yeah. And it's broccoli, bonza chickpea pasta, 2 Laughing Cow wedges, and 28 grams of cheese per serving, and 140 grams of bonza and 140 grams of broccoli.
See?
So good.
Yeah.
Mom.
So there's your mac and cheese.
Right.
It's easy.
So we want to have that connection. We want to teach. And also, like you talked about earlier, is we're setting them up for success. I love sandwiches. I probably until I started working at a bar, like restaurant, I survived on sandwiches because it was inexpensive. It filled me up. It fueled me for my workouts. I could have 2. My nephew Ryan literally has, I think, 3 sandwiches now at this point.
Okay.
He eats for lunch. Ryan. He has ham sandwiches every day that his dad makes them. It's hilarious. So good. Another thing with kiddos is making it, again, we're coming back to autonomy, creating meals, if you can, when you do have time, where they can choose.
Yeah.
So pizza nights are good for that. Taco nights are good for that. Baked potato nights where they can like decide what they're going to put in it. Even like eggs, omelet day, waffle toppings, yogurt, all of these things where we can have different toppings. Again, this is if you have the means to do that, where, you obviously know your kids. You're not going to just buy, maybe you do buy some random shit one day. I think, is it Sal on Mind Pump who like, they always just put something on the plate.
Yeah. Well, what you're supposed to do when you're introducing food to kids is like you put like a thing, like a couple things they'll eat, and then a new thing. And then so if they eat that new thing, great. And then you do it again and again and again. And then, but you also want to start with vegetables prior to fruit, because fruit is a more sweet taste.
Interesting.
And then also you want to make sure that, like, if they don't go for that, say we put broccoli on the plate or on the platter or whatever, and they don't go for it, it's like, it's not like oh no, we just don't do broccoli anymore. It's like, we'll reintroduce it and reintroduce it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's smart. It's like giving your kid, again, autonomy to kind of build their pizza and build their tacos and build their potato, because it gives them a sense of pride too, of like, I made this for myself. It doesn't mean, again, they're going to eat the whole thing, but
no, they probably won't.
There's so much. I mean, it's, again, beyond just the obvious. Connection, time spent together, doing a hard thing, creating a meal for themselves, nourishing themselves with that meal. There's so many positives to that.
Let's talk about exercise with it.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of, I'll say, fitness-minded parents want their kid to want to be in exercise too. And so they end up pushing them.
Yeah.
And then the kid, I guess, of course, revolts, doesn't want to do it. But just even so, for one of the things that I was so fortunate to have is that in the gym, when I was doing in-person training, is that the girls would bring their kids with them. And they would just, it was like, is it inconvenient? Yes, it is, especially once they're more mobile. But it's the point that they're seeing you do that from an early age, that you're engaging with them. And even like we would bring them in and kind of, because they're curious. So then, okay, you get your own little dumbbell and you can do it too. Or if they're fussy, you pick them up and let them squat with you or whatever we're doing, or we can do a seated overhead press. So there's so many things that we can do that just from a younger age influences that. But if we're starting maybe our fitness journey and our kid is older, we don't want to bring them into that or pull them into it. We just want to show them that fitness or exercise rather is something we do to enjoy, not as a form of self-punishment.
Absolutely. It happens more often than not where I'll have a mom be like, oh yeah, my son is seeing me squat.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe the dad doesn't work out and the mom does. I mean, the son's like, I want to work out too. Or they'll be like, oh, I need to get my protein in, and all of the things, girls too, of course. Yeah. And I love the idea of just being the example of it. Not that you have to do it, not that, it has to look a certain way. Now, we'll talk too about like being creative with movement, because kids don't necessarily have to go into a gym, like do a squat, like set, right? Yeah. Now, there are athletic children that we're not talking about, like kids in specific athlete and sports or activities. Your average kiddo, the example is going to be encouraging for them, especially if they're seeing the positive benefits of that example. You're able to run with them. You're able to pick them up when they need a hug. You have a lot of energy. You're laughing, you're smiling. Like, exercise and, of course, a healthy diet brings all of that for you as mom. You're taking care of yourself. They're going to see the benefit of that. So they're going to just naturally be attracted to doing that. But maybe they're not. Maybe they're a kiddo that really is more likes adventure and creativity and stuff like that. We can still get movement from stuff like that. If we want to play dragons, play swords and you're just running around, you're doing bear crawls, you've got a sword, you got a squat, and like, or just dance parties. My friends' kids love the movie, the musical one.
High School Musical?
No, it's like the something man.
Don't know.
Oh my God, everyone's gonna be like, it's not the Magic Man. I don't know. It was like one of those big musicals, like Nicole Kidman's in it, and oh my God, I'm going to remember afterwards. Anyways, they'll sit there and they sing and they do all the dances and they do all the things. And like, that's getting them a lot of activity.
Yeah.
You know, and so it doesn't have to be this, it shouldn't be
a structure.
Go in the gym and
here's
blah,
what you
blah,
do
blah.
exactly. Well, I think that speaks to an earlier topic that you're kind of glimpsing on is make it different, have diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we're fortunate where there's plenty of hiking around here.
Oh yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily need to be like a strenuous hike. It could be a trail walk. Now, that means for parents, we need to change our perception of what activity counts as. For me, in the past, even like prior to kids and whatnot, if I went walking like on a trail and just did like more of a walking trail rather than like a hike gruesome, I didn't count that as activity.
Right.
But I would say that does count as activity because you're still moving, you're getting out. Like you doing that activity is actually more beneficial than you sitting and stewing and being pissed that you didn't go to the gym and strength train.
Yeah.
And now you're getting out with your kids and we can engage with them again. And this may be a time looking at different age groups. So maybe when they're younger, we're more exploratory. Maybe as we get older, we're more conversational, or maybe even not conversational, but just being quiet and letting them kind of wander and meander and
be with nature.
Yeah, be with nature, but even give them the opportunity to bring up topics too. Because I find that parents will try and like, what's going on? What's going on? Do you like this? Do you like this? And instead, sometimes like the 16-year-old doesn't want to hang out with you.
Yeah.
But this is what we're doing together. And again, cultivating that relationship or that openness to them to bring up something if they want.
Right. No, I agree. The thing I was going to bring up is all of you parents can be like, fuck you, Christina. So my Harlem now goes on walks with me, and I've had to reassess because I usually go on 3-mile walks every morning. I can't take her on 3-mile walks. Plus she stops and smells things every
so it's like taking twice as long.
But you know, I had to say in myself is like, she's so happy right now. She's happy to be with me. She's happy to be outside. She's happy to see her little friends. She's happy to pee on others' pee. And like, it took me out of that mindset of what you're talking about. Now, obviously, again, it's not a child. I'm not comparing my dogs to children, even though I do it on here often. It's not what it is. I understand. But I had to reframe my walk, you know, because like by this time of the day, I'd be like, oh, I'm at my steps, you know, and whatever. So I get that. The other thing is like really avoiding more of that pressure, right? Like, no, we've got to do this hike or whatever. Trying to, as we tell you all, like praise them, like, oh my gosh, like how much fun was tag today? Or, you know, did you get to play on the playground today? What did you play? Did you go on the monkey bars? You know, really celebrating all of those little things and, you know, again, making it where they're proud of the movement that they're doing rather than feeling like they have to perform or, you know, be this like competitor.
Right. Well, what I'm hearing you say is be the parent, not the coach.
Correct.
Right. So a lot of times we hear like there's always that parent that's the kid's coach that it gets a little much. And it's like, y'all are playing like youth t-ball. You know, like this is not going to make or break, you know? And if that parent wants their kid to do that, does the kid want to do that? And then we can foster that. But just because every kid is out there doesn't mean they all want to go into, you know, MLB. Yeah. So, and I think it's important for parents to take a step back from trying to push and coach and make sure they're doing it right. Like just let them kind of fail and figure it out too. And you're just there as a support and then a habit of encouragement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of encouragement, we want to talk about kind of the intersection, as we always do, of mindset, exercise, and nutrition. And really it's about, you know, the messages around food, movement, and how we want to be delivering that message so that it's not necessarily good versus bad in regards to who you are and your self-worth, right? We come from a perspective of body respect, right? Am I respecting my body, my hunger and fullness cues? Am I respecting my body by resting? Because, you know, kids have a lot of energy. They're probably going to rest though when they want to rest. I have a lot of clients whose parents would actually like get mad at them if they were resting. Like if they were just like reading a book or sitting on the couch, it'd get like negative.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Negative. What are you doing? You know, shouldn't you be doing something? Like let them rest. And that's creating a sense of, respect towards your body, obviously respect towards foods, just like you talked about. We're making our food. We're, providing our bodies with what we need. And when we go on the trip or whenever we go to, in and out here and there, the reason why that's important is not from a restrictive standpoint. It's actually from, I meant to say this earlier when you said that. These foods are created to be addicting. Okay.
The processed foods.
So the more we're exposed to it, obviously, the more that our bodies want it. Now, the funny thing about it is it actually, as I talked about it before, can affect our dopamine levels. So then what does our body want? More of it. So that's why we say that, guys. I mean, I fucking love it. We love food. We love food.
I do like food.
I love In-N-Out.
I brought chicken nuggets.
You did. I don't know what I'm eating for lunch yet.
That's not lunch. That's snack.
Oh, that's snack. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to just say that, but body respect and positivity, and when we're talking about, and I don't, kids are going to see social media, they're going to see, kids on magazine, whatever they are exposed to, whatever media they're exposed to, and, kind of pulling away from the words like pretty, fat, skinny, thin. Right. I like strong, but not if we're not using it from like an aesthetic point, like, oh, look how strong you are, or, oh, your arms are so strong, you give great hugs. Character is a big thing, right? If we're really promoting body respect, person respect, self-respect, it's more, we want to be focusing on character. Wow. Like, look at how you were able to run around for 20 minutes. Like, what a great work ethic. That's a stupid example, but instead of this kind of, and I know parents aren't saying this directly, they're actually saying it indirectly about themselves of like, oh, I need to work out because I need to lose weight. So obviously stepping away from the aesthetics and what we look like, working into self-respect, body respect, food respect.
I think when you say that point, I don't think we've made this enough too, is that it's really hard to teach your children these, I want to say like reframes or recreations of what exercise and nutrition is if you haven't worked on that yourself, if you're not aware of it. Because I've had clients tell me like, oh yeah, I just don't want my kids like to talk to themselves. Like, we try not to use the word pretty. We try not to use this. And it's like, yes, but then what about you? Like, you're missing the point of yourself as well. So you can tell your kids this thing, but are you actually going to be aware of what you're saying to them? Because you're not even aware of what you're telling yourself. So how do you teach someone something you don't know about?
I had a really hard conversation with someone who is not going to coach with us. Very restrictive, very rigid, eats at the same time, same thing every single day, does not have any food off of our diet, and has a daughter. Says, well, I allow her to have a cupcake. And I tell her, well, if mommy wanted a cupcake, she would have a cupcake, but mommy doesn't want a cupcake. And I'm like,
why doesn't mommy want a cupcake?
Correct. You don't even know why you don't want a cupcake. Like, in your mind, you're like, she's almost kind of
tricking her. It sounds like tricking the daughter in a way, but tricking herself.
Yeah. Well, it's, in all honesty, and I did tell her this, I said, I think you actually can meet the criteria for anorexia. Like, the manipulation that you're doing to trying to manipulate me. Good luck with that. But I can hear your eating disorder trying to convince you that what you're doing is okay. And you're constantly seeking that, I'm talking about that external validation that what you're doing is okay, because deep down inside it's not. Because again, we are, there are innate responses in our bodies, and wanting to share sugary food with our daughter is one of them. I don't know. I mean, you and I aren't sweets person, but there's even going past that of like, oh, it's my anniversary dessert. I'm gonna have a couple bites of my husband. Like, even if I, it's not my first choice. Like,
you get me a warm chocolate brownie with some ice cream, I will eat that.
I'm more of I do love that. I had those at my wedding. I'm more of a like apple crumble.
Oh yeah, I'll eat an apple crumble.
I like a fruit.
Yeah,
I like a fruit dessert. Anyway, And what I told her, I said, well, she's watching you.
Yeah.
I go, you might be telling her all the things.
Right.
It doesn't fucking matter.
Well,
she's watching you.
How's the kid?
3.
Yeah. She's not going, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Like, oh, mommy doesn't want a cupcake. Like,
yeah.
Well, why does the mommy constantly not want a cupcake?
Right.
Right. Why is mommy constantly eating the same food?
Right.
Why does daddy and daughter eat differently?
Oh, see? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't even say that part.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think, you guys ever have a conversation with someone and then like 10 years later, you're like, fuck, I should have said that. Yeah. I do that on clarity calls all the time. I bet you do. All the time.
Let's do some. I got some questions.
Yes,
because I posted.
Go.
So one of them, and I didn't have the time to put it in this morning, was like, how do you navigate other people's comments towards your kids?
Yeah, love this question. So I think how we navigate a boundary is going to be the same always. When I perceive, receive, hear, see X. When I hear comments about other people's bodies in front of my children. So one thing you guys did not hear me say is when I hear body comments when my kids are present about that, I feel why? Frustrated,
enraged.
Angry, resentful. And for that, I prefer Z. Please don't make those comments around. I prefer those comments not be around my children.
Yeah. Do you have this conversation in private ahead of time?
So
when do we have it?
By the way, guys, I've revamped the entire fucking method and I added this to one of our boundaries. It's like, what is the delivery for this method?
What a coinkydink.
I know. What is the delivery for this boundary? In person, social media, FaceTime, email,
Yeah.
Depending on, so here's the thing, depending on your relationship with the person, I would use the I statement. If it is a person that you want to have a relationship with that's going to be around your children often, we want to use the I statement. We want to then also continue to check in with ourselves how we are implementing that boundary, not executing, that boundary, right? We are going to stand in our truth. And if that person cannot do that for us, then the next conversation is, I've asked you multiple times to not make these comments. It seems that that's something that is challenging for you. And I'm going to, remove the kids or your access to my children.
Oh, fuck.
If we cannot. Now, what I said is if we've asked X amount of times.
Okay.
And you get to decide that. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Depending on the relationship. If it's your fucking mother-in-law.
Well, that's
probably
someone in particular, but it's actually the father-in-law.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he's more of like a food pusher with the sweets. So like if there's a group gathering together and it's a birthday or something and there's cake, it's like, and he'll give the kid like a fat whopping piece of cake. And it's like, well, the kid, he's going to eat all of it. And then you're not dealing with the kid when they go home. Right. It's cute to watch him eat that whole piece of cake and get all messy, but what happens when we go home? Because you're not there.
Right. For that, I would just say, when we have a cake or anything, I would prefer to choose a serving.
Yeah.
I would love for you to sit with him and feed it to him if you'd like that.
That's actually okay.
There you go.
I'll let her know.
Yes. I was going to say one more thing with, if it's someone who is like, a member of your community, like I think of these like mom talk communities, like, these like big, like gated communities that you're just kind of in and out of. You can then have a conversation with your child.
Okay.
Right. Say, Miss So-and-so made a comment today about this. Do you have any questions about that?
Oh, just like leaving it up to them.
See what they perceive it.
Yeah.
What's their perception? Oh, I didn't even hear her say it. Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, mommy's here, daddy's here to talk about it.
So then some other questions is, how do I talk to my kids about why I am weighing or measuring food?
I think we kind of touched on that. The way I used to do it back in the day is just like, well, when I'm making a meal for myself, just kind of, because most parents will bake with their kids and use measuring cups. Yeah. So I know there's some familiarity with like using cups and stuff. So like that was my kind of default, but I like the concept of, mommy needs a certain amount of food to make sure she's eating enough, sure she's giving her body what it needs. And right now, mommy doesn't have enough practice with doing this the right way.
Oh,
Because
the right way? Would you want that? Like
maybe
right
not
from
the right
front?
way. Mommy doesn't have enough practice of
Seeing.
it. So I use this scale to
Help me see.
It's kind of like when you guys use a calculator for math,
Uh-huh.
but then you actually learn how to do it in your head, or using some sort of
like
example like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then eventually, for all of our clients, we want them to move away from
Mhm.
having to track. But again, not too quickly, right? It's, creating that confidence, true confidence in yourself that I can easily hit my goals. And really, all that is, it's not like I have this magical algorithm in my brain. It's literally I just eat similar fucking
Meals.
portions.
Right. all the time. Because even Michael will ask me, he'll be like, how much, he makes some amount of turkey and amount of sausage together.
Mhm.
He's like, how much do you think that is? I was like, probably about 60 grams. He's like, okay. I'm like, because I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be exact. And that's where
No.
I think people have to let that go.
Mhm.
But that's another topic.
Yeah.
Another question was, what's the best way to encourage exercise without making it feel like a chore? Which I think we answered again too.
Mhm.
Invite them, make it fun, make it playful, ask what they would want to do,
Mhm.
and change what your perception of exercise is. Or I would say change the rigidity of what exercise is.
Mhm.
So it can be hiking, it can be going for a walk, it can be playing on the playground with them, it can be a strength training routine, it can be going and practicing playing t-ball.
Yeah.
So it all counts, because even if you think of t-ball, you're still getting an additional steps that you wouldn't be getting it.
Right.
And
we're not doing is
physical.
video gaming. It's sitting on our asses on an iPad. When I take my dog for a walk, I call it sniffies instead of a walk, because walk doesn't work for her. So I think also just finding your word to be for movement. Obviously playtime is a great one. Okay, what is our play going to be today, guys?
Right.
And them realizing every day they need to be ready for play, you know, and making that routine.
Yeah.
Making that a habit. Now, also, if we're sick, okay, well, when we're sick, we don't do playtime. We do rest time. We do sleepies.
Yeah.
Instead of sniffies. So that's all I can reference. I mean, I obviously reference my education, but when I tell her that, she knows we're gonna go for a walk. When instead of saying go out, go potty, won't go outside, and she knows that means go out back, right? So it's all classical conditioning.
So smart.
It's all classical fucking conditioning, whether it's a kid or a child. All right, what else you got?
That was it.
I have one here. How do I get my picky eater to try new foods?
Ooh, I would say that's where we continue to reintroduce.
I like that.
But this is where variety of foods starting younger is better.
Yeah. But say we have a 10-year-old.
Then we ask them to join us in the kitchen, or we sneak foods in too. So sneaky, it doesn't mean slide it under their tongue, but so we talked about your Bonza mac and cheese. That's a way to sneak it in.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about chicken nuggets is a great one.
Mm-hmm.
So Costco, or those Just Bear, I think the brand
Real
is.
Good and Just Bear.
And Just Bear. So there's Real Good, Costco ones, and Just Bear. Those are chicken nuggets that have high protein. They have minimal ingredients.
Fairlife protein shakes.
Yeah. Fairlife protein shakes for your drink. Our Fairlife are the blender thingy. What's it called? Gosh,
Creamy.
Creamy. Thank you. So there's ways to sneak it in, but then I think it's more important to bring them into that creation, right? And asking what they want and what can they have. And then, or just putting it on the table and say, oh, can we, if you would like to try it, great. If not, let it be.
Right.
Because the more you push it, the more they're going to resist, just like anything.
Yeah. And that's just giving them more, like we talked about, the meals that we can kind of have them choose their toppings. Because we want to create autonomy. Yeah. And you will have children that are just plain eaters. I was a very plain eater.
Me too.
And not going to lie, my mom made me my own meals, but it wasn't she made a new meal, but she just knew, okay, on taco night, I just wanted a bowl.
Yeah.
She would make me the bowl, but having them create their own thing and on that table, like you said, reintroducing something else. Now, there are eating disorders for their not otherwise specified eating disorders for kids where it's becoming extreme, where we're not getting in the nutrients that we need because of this barrier. And usually it's more of a somatic, not somatic, tactile thing. Yeah.
Is that, yeah. So that's another thing too. So with the kids being younger that you can kind of get ahead on. So I learned this from Dominique. Yeah. Where if because babies, their hands are usually clenched, is working on opening up and then putting different tactiles on their palms.
Oh, I love that.
Or different products and feelings on their palms. Because a lot of times picky eating comes from lack of like stimulation to the palms. I was like, that's wild. But okay.
Yeah. It's crazy. But no, I think, and validating them when they are, doing other things around food. So maybe not even just focusing on the foods they choose. Maybe they ate a little bit more of that food that they, well, great job. You ate a little bit more of the butter noodles, creating this kind of positive reinforcement around like good choices they make with food, hoping it may not happen, hoping eventually that reinforcement then turns into, oh, I want to try something new. Like I'm going to get some positive reinforcement out of it. So great.
And on the last point, I will say sometimes from my experience, the kids will develop it on their own as well. So for example, growing up, I was a very limited eater. Then I went to college and I started to try different things because they had like the meal card. And then the one meal card place, there was like all different types of food that you could get. And so at some point you're like, oh, I'll try that because it doesn't matter because there's an abundance of it. Right. Whereas if it's in the house, it's like my mom had to get the tomato.
Right.
There's a tons of tomato right here.
Right.
So I think and now this isn't to like whitewash everything we just said or to, relieve parents of responsibility for this, but there can be a point in the child's life where they're exposed to these other foods that they may try naturally on their own. But I think that's where how you responded when they didn't try things that you presented to them will have them try things at that time. So for example, if they didn't try something and you were like, why didn't, like you should have done it. They may not try something when they're older and have that independence.
Right. Yeah. I was just thinking, I'm like, what did I not try until I was older? Sushi was definitely one of those things.
Sushi. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have tomatoes in Italy? Oh, fuck.
So good. I know. Like, you're like, why does the tomato taste like this? Yeah. And
awesome. I think this is a great conversation. We're also going to do a conversation on kind of the attachment and
I want that.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys listening to this episode. If you have any questions, please leave them in the show notes below. Or if you have any suggestions, things you do with your kids that you think that other people in our community would benefit from, please leave those in the show notes below as well. Don't forget, please subscribe, follow, rate, and review this podcast. It helps get this information out to so many other people. Give us a follow on Instagram at Mindset of Matter Coaching or fitbyamanda.az or on YouTube at the Mindset Mirror Connection Podcast. And if you want to teach your kids one of the most important things they'll ever learn in their lives, we want you to teach them this.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Goodbye.